Hello and welcome. My name is Joe, and I am Andrew's spirit guide, as many of you may be aware by now. Now, the topic for this lecture, lecture number 8, is Love Part 2. So for those of you that listened to Love Part 1, which was just titled Love, you'll be somewhat familiar with understanding what love in its purest form is. And if you haven't listened to lecture number 7, I highly suggest you do, because it will help you understand lecture number 8, this lecture, Love Part 2. And so, I spoke of human love in lecture number 7, and how it was very far away from true love, and how often many people conflate love with true love. Now, this is somewhat an inevitable conflation, simply because you all in physical manifestation have a shadow side that you're trying to release. And the shadow is what embodies the energies that create human love in a big way. For example, you may be embarking on a new relationship, and you may be seeking love. However, your entire being, to some degree, has never experienced love in its purest form, and therefore you have no reference point as to what love truly is. It's not that you haven't experienced love, it's just that it's somewhat conflated, confused, mixed up with aspects of shadow. And so, you may embark on a relationship, a new relationship maybe, looking for the qualities of the shadow self as opposed to true love. For example, desire, which could be attraction. There's an element of attraction in desire and vice versa. And it's very pervasive among humans to look for a partner that they're attracted to. Now, this is neither right nor wrong, because it is what it is. However, it's a bit like going to the supermarket with a list, and on your list it says apples, but you spend no time looking at the apples, and you just browse the oranges, and then you end up coming home with an orange. Now, I know that seems like a simple example, but it's very common. People requesting love, asking the universe for love, but then not looking at love, looking at everything other than love. Now, is it as simple as apples and oranges? Is it as simple as the metaphor I used? Most certainly not. Simply because with apples, you have a reference of what an apple is, and maybe you just chose to go to the oranges, which is very different to the analogy of love, because most of you don't even know what true love is which explains why you then walk into the supermarket shopping for love initially because it's on your list, and you end up in the lust and desire section. I hope the use of simile and metaphor makes sense. But it's common. You are not alone. As I have been Andrew's guide for years beyond years beyond years, as there is no time, I've observed him and had to guide him through releasing the ideas that desire and attraction equates to love. And therefore many of his past relationships, whether long or short, have been very somewhat interesting, simply because when you're faced with an apples and oranges situation, yes, I'm going to use that metaphor again, it can be very, very complex and confusing. If you're so familiar with one, i.e. in this case the oranges, then to suddenly switch over to the apples may be somewhat jarring within the system, which is very, very common in humans, in physical manifestation. That is part of the conundrum of being a human. That said, many of you have decided in this incarnation to somewhat awaken to true love, and therefore this requires you to release and let go of your old ideas, your familiar ideas of what you thought love was. Am I saying it's an easy process? Most certainly not. However, it is something your very soul, if this indeed is your path, and what I mean by that is, if it's your path to wake up to true love, then your very soul knows exactly which roads to take in order to get you to understand true love in its highest form. And so, as simple as many of my explanations may have been in regards to this topic of love, I feel that all of you, somewhere inside, know what love is. And in fact, I go further. I don't just feel it, I know it, because I can see it. Yes, I have the ability to see the vibration of love. I see you as love. So to conclude this lecture, I'd like to leave you with that vision. Know that you are love. Not in its entirety, because yes, you have a shadow aspect of self. Some of you have a larger shadow than others. So it can be challenging to somewhat excavate toward love. Let's frame it that way, because it is indeed an excavation process that being human in physical form requires. But just have this vision, like I mentioned, you are love. The vibration is there. It's just that a level of letting go and releasing of old structures, old belief systems, if you like, is necessary in order to get to the essence of what true love is. And it will be an incremental process. Some of you may discover it very quickly. Some of you may only discover a certain aspect of love on the spectrum. Everybody's journey is different and sometimes similar. I'll leave it there for lecture number 8, Love Part 2. Thank you for listening.